for tomorrow. I put two to you. Well, I finally did put it. So thanks for coming. Absolutely. I'll drop those. Everything that's in there will be done before you don't have to.
Director Michael?
We're ready?
We need to sign this and notarize it.
Okay. You want me to hold them until then? Yep, that's fine. Yep, no problem.
I just have a second.
I didn't sign it because somebody needs to notarize it. I don't want to do it. Right? Okay. All right, we ready to go, Mr. DeGore?
You're on YouTube.
Excellent. Well, then let's call the Charles City Community Board of Education meeting to order with a roll call vote, please.
Yeah, Mac,
Here.
Rotted House,
Here.
Knight,
Here.
Coyne,
Here.
Berglund,
Here.
Jones.
You're on mute, hon.
Rotted House.
Here. No. Michelle called your name.
Got it.
Can you hear me?
Straight up. Right there. Just close that tab. There we go. All right, we're good now. A small technical difficulty. Okay. Did we get our roll call vote done?
We're good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Let's move on to agenda item number 2, the reading of the district commission mission vision statement by Director Berglund.
Our mission, regardless of who you are or what your story is, you can learn and be loved here. Our vision, creating compassionate, competent problem solvers. Our operating principles, information for one is information for all, no surprises, verify facts, think ahead, disagree, explain your thinking, and then commit.
Thank you so much. Agenda item number 3, approval of the agenda. Do we have any edits, changes, or corrections to the agenda? No changes. Okay. We have a motion.
Move to approve is presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 4, welcome visitors for public comment. We are here in the high school library. Do we have any visitors who would like to make public comment? Seeing none. All right. Then we would move on to agenda item number 5, comments by board members and superintendent.
Strategic goal number 1, student achievement and equity. That's our first day back at school for 5/12, and that was really exciting. Last week, lots of professional development and teachers getting ready to get back with it. All of our new teachers are in place, and new staff's in place. That's exciting. I had a chance to be present at high school, and we had staff present, leadership team at all the 512 campuses. We have conferences going on right now for pre-K forward, so that's exciting. I have mine for Joshua tomorrow night, so that's good. Get people welcomed in again. Big shout out to all of our staff for making the magic happen. And you got to ride a bus tonight, so that was kind of fun. So it's good. It's good to be back in session. Strategic goal number 2, which would be culture and climate. One thing you'll be seeing, our span of care leaders, culture leaders are really hitting it hard with our staff. And you're going to see us actually doing some even more strengths assessments with all of our staff to help the culture leaders better serve our staff with that area and making sure our staff stays healthy, especially as we, hit those bumps and bruises of the normal seasons that we have. So you're going to see much more of that coming out for our staff as well. And also with our culture, with our students and with our community, you're seeing lots of work coming out in our strategic plan tonight, which we'll be rolling out more. And then strategic goal 3, facilities and infrastructure. Just again, shout out to all of our operating staff that just made magic happen. It was a very difficult year with supplies being limited, labor being limited. But for example, we're getting a bunch of concrete work done, and we didn't get everything quite done as quick as we wanted to this year. Obviously, there's some delays, but we keep toiling away. Really impressed with the new flooring we put in the pre-K and the kindergarten sections over Washington, and really seeing our campuses become beautiful for the first couple of days. So that's what's happening in the district.
Thank you. Superintendent Fisher. Board members. Director Rottinghouse, you're on mute.
I know. I just wanted to say that last Thursday, a week ago Thursday, I was able to meet with the new teachers as they were doing their scavenger hunt. Seems like a great group of people. They seem fun. They seem dedicated. And so welcome aboard, new teachers and staff.
It's great to have them back. Yeah. Any other board member comments? Well, the one comment I will make is I've heard a lot of parents share their opinion about staggered start dates over the last week. And I'm really appreciative that you've shared your opinion with us. It's really good to hear. And that will be something we can take back and look at, see how it made the impact it made this year. So thank you very much for that feedback that you sent us. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 6, committee reports. Since we have none, we can just jump right over that one and move on to agenda item number 7, an orchestra presentation, which we are really excited about.
Thank you. Those who don't know me, I'm Sam Nahman. I'm the orchestra director. This is my second year here in the district. So happy to be here. So happy I was given the opportunity.
We're not seeing him.
He's right.
If I yell louder, maybe they'll focus on it. One thing, we are going to do some playing today. I have some amazing students here who are here to play for you. But there's a lot that goes into even a little performance like this. Last week we met 2 different times for about 45 minutes each to kind of work up this piece here a little bit because we wanted to make sure we ran the piece once and got a feel for it before we came here. It's really important that we feel is so good for students to learn. It teaches them things like delayed gratification. You're not going to learn the piece overnight. You got to take time to. Learn it, and you got to go through the frustrations of I can't do it right now, but it's only right now. These students definitely embody that. Orchestra gives us the chance to use way more of our brain than some other activities. We have to be able to read the music and process what that means, and then apply that to our fingers. But the most important thing that music does is it gives us an emotional escape sometimes. It allows us to convey emotions that you might not even be able to feel. We can convey happiness, we can convey anger, we can convey frustration, very sadness. We can convey meanings that don't even have words. The piece we're going to play for you today definitely embodies that. Before I convey that though, we got some great musicians here. On violin, Emma Schmiedel, Alea Ortiola, Gia Calpito, Susanna Gonzalez. They're all seniors. On viola, we got Hook Matt Warren Jr. On cello, we got Elise White also junior. These make up about half of our wire choir, which is an audition group that meets outside of the school day. They're really here to come and give as much as they can to the orchestra department. And then we're excited for them and the other half that couldn't make it today. We're really excited for the year. The piece we're going to play is called The Gift by William Hofeldt. Hofeldt wrote this piece shortly after he had his first kid. His first son, named Matthew. And this just embodies, and I can't say this myself because I don't have kids, but this piece embodies that feeling that many parents have when you first have that new child and you think, I just brought new life into the world. What a miracle. been working really hard on what's that emotion mean to me? And how do I do it? How do we actually do our goal in that way? It's been really fun. I'm so excited this year. We have a great concert schedule lined up. This is too much. We're very happy to show up.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's fantastic, ladies.
Thank you.
Great job.
For having us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Volleyball and
Yeah, we
everything,
have
so
two
thank you.
cross-country runners in this group. who snuck
Thank
out
you.
to the time.
A great start to the school year.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 8, EMC Insurance. So I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Robert Obert Ingram, I don't know if I said that right. Assistant Associates is going to talk about our change this year. Just right up here.
Yeah, right up
Yep,
there.
right there.
Yeah, right there.
So is Obert a nickname or
I was gonna get to that.
excellent? I will let
Actually,
you talk.
it's a nickname that stuck with me ever since 1980,
A couple years.
few years. I got a piece of junk mail one time that came to me and said Obert Ingram. So I took it in the office, kind of laughing about that. Found out later the joke was on me. Because later that year for Christmas, our secretaries went together and got a personalized plate. And when they sent in for the request, they asked for Obert. And believe it or not, because usually you have to ask 3 in case that first one's taken and the second one, and the third. Who's gonna have a plate named Obert? Somebody does. I didn't get that one. So she sent it back again, and I got my license plate on my Mustang says Obert 1. So you can call me Robert, you can call me Obert. I even have a nickname to the Obert, O-B-E. I go by many names.
Well, Mr. Ingram, we're very, very grateful that you're here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's kind of a pleasure for me because I normally don't get a chance to address the board of directors on the school and military. Brian pretty much handled that. And always offered my services, but she always told me I'll take care of it.
Yep.
Okay, he's very capable. All right, in front of you, if you have your premium comparison from 2020 to the renewal of 2021, we will start at the top of the property. And if you look at the blanket limit, directors, the blanket limit is $71,914,568. What we do with our school program at EMC is we value the buildings and the contents of each location. Then we arrive at a number, let's say to replace the high school, to replace the middle school, that we take those values and we add them all together to form what we call a blanket limit. So if we were to lose the high school due to a catastrophe, we would not be limited to the value we put on the high school. You would have up to $71 million to replace that and the contents. So worst case scenario, we have one catastrophe that takes out every location, and that's all we have. So that's the benefit of the blanket.
So, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So that 71 million, so let's say we had a tornado and took both buildings out, because as you know, this town has had a tornado
The 71 million.
for both buildings
Yes,
and the content.
yes. Yeah. Because we actually list them together in the values, but because the middle school has a different address than the high school, we just show that. But we are added together. You're correct, but it would be up to 71 million to replace. Our renewal premium on the property took a jump of $22,393. And after the derecho that hit Central Iowa last year, the January 1st of 2021, every one of our insurance companies, commercial lines, sent out letters to us telling us to expect high property increases. Those increases could range anywhere from 20 to 30%. And so far, that's been true to form. So the increase that you see is not only just the ratio, but storms create a lot of havoc and a lot of premium loss. So storms that hit Iowa that affects perhaps a school, a city, residential, those have an impact on rates. And we have seen that. And we've even seen it with personal lines. Reliability is your next line item. This would be your general liability. And the general liability, that premium is up a little, only $651. The next line down is your crime and fidelity. That one stayed the same. There's no change there. Your automobile, the premium is up about $1,800 there. That could be to perhaps vehicles that were purchased in the 2021, and we did have some trailers, and I think some vehicles that were purchased. Your umbrella liability is up $945, so it's a little rate increase there. The linebacker is the coverage that provides you protection for your employment practices. It could be wrongful termination, sexual harassment, hate discrimination. On the other side of the linebacker, it provides the liability protection for you as directors for decision-making processes. That's what the linebacker represents.
Is there a particular reason that one grew almost $2,000, $1,800?
Litigation, director. Schools, municipalities have a lot of litigation, things that are brought to the forefront. It could be a lawsuit, it could be a frivolous lawsuit, but those lawsuits have to be defended. The defense costs of that. So that increase is due to probably the increase in litigation and the cost to defend that litigation.
But Mr. Sisson, you're talking about litigation in the pool, not necessarily Charles City's litigation, because I don't believe we've had any lately.
You're correct, Director. It would be the school program that EMC has with all of the schools in Iowa.
Okay, I thank you for that, and I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't our litigation; it's potentially litigation in the EMC pool.
Just the pool. Thank you. Excess liability, we have with EMC, they have provided a $15 million blanket excess liability. Now that $15 million is liability protection over and above your general liability, your auto liability, your linebacker. Okay. Now the blanket 15 million means all of the participating schools in EMC's program are covered under this 15 million. So this 15 million is not specific to Charles City. It's every member that's in this program with EMC. And this is a plus. This is a nice thing to have. Workers' compensation. I would like to commend the school, your staff, teachers. Workers' compensation can be an extremely volatile area simply because of the little thing underneath the workers' compensation that says experience mod. If you slide to the right under 2020, you'll see a 0.78. If you go further right under 2021, your mod is 0.71. What does that represent? Workers' compensation starts with a 1.00. Okay. Your modification is dependent upon your experience and your experience alone. The other schools are not participating in your mod. Your mod identifies you. The insurance companies do not present this mod or factor this mod. There's a separate rating facility called NCCI out of Boca Raton, Florida. All insurance companies subscribe to them. They take the data from every commercial risk that has workers' compensation, that individual risk, and they formulate a mod. If your experience is good, then your mod drops, you get a credit. If your experience is bad, then it works just to the opposite, you'll be surcharged. At one time, in the probably middle 80s, Charles City's workers' compensation mod was 1.56, which means you were being surcharged 56% because of bad experience. So with this 0.71, you are now receiving a credit of 29% because of your good experience. Overall, premium was up 11% from last year. I think that's good hold, given the fact that we had such a huge jump in the property premium. But I would field any questions or any concerns, if anybody has any.
Board members, have any questions?
Yeah, I just have a question for, I'm assuming Evan would probably be the right one to answer, but how often do we look at quotes from other businesses or not businesses, but just other carriers? Like I know EMC probably has a really good school program and that's why, you know, we've been with them, but are there other insurance companies that maybe Sisson Associates even represents, but just how often do we go through that process?
Off the top of my head, I do not really know, but I can look into the last time Terry evaluated that and see where we stand. Honestly, as far as I can see, we've been going with Bob over here and he's been getting best package together for us, but I can back you on that.
And Missy, I'll say EMC by far is the largest school insurance carrier in Iowa, maybe in the country. They're just the school insurance people, but you know, it's a fair question. We can definitely maybe Bob can give some more insight to that as well.
I certainly can, Director. The thing with EMC's program, there have been a lot of companies that will come out and tell you, yes, we insure schools, okay? But if you're going to quote, and we have no problem with quoting, if you're going to quote, then in all fairness, you need to compare the program you have with the program that you're going to be looking at, which means forms of endorsements and coverages. Yeah, EMC has a very good track record. I think they write over 90% of their schools. I know at one time there was a school district a number of years ago that went into a bid situation, and to keep things fair, if I remember correctly, they sent it to an independent firm in Denver, Colorado, and had them review the two programs. And it just came back that the other program was far inferior to EMC's. So I'm not making a plug for EMC. If a school thinks that you would like to go out and secure quotes, they'll certainly do that.
I have a question for Evan. Did we budget an extra 30,000 in this fund to cover an increase in insurance?
Yeah, with some of the increases in levies that we've done in the past, we had plenty of money to cover this insurance increase, specifically management.
Thank you.
Two questions for you, Ms. Freeman. One is looking at the invoice. We have a couple invoices, one which kind of lay out the program that you've just described here. We also have an additional invoice for excess liability, which is a separate dollar figure of $3,810, and then a third one that talks about cyber liability. And then all of them have an address in Cedar Rapids.
That is the parent company that we merged with. So that's where they're out of, but everything that we do is still Sisson and Associates here in Charles City. Okay.
So it's a partner company, parent company.
Yes, what we
sister
did is
company.
we merged 2 years ago with an organization called First Main Street out of Cedar Rapids. And we have about 15, 16 agencies that are part of this group. So to answer Missy's question about other markets, we can certainly go to them and say, okay, the school wants to quote their insurance because they would have access to companies we don't have. And so that's one of the reasons we merged, is to pick up that side of it, to, in other words, to give you options, to tell you, okay, we can do this through this company, we can do it through this company. That's why you see that happen. But we're still Sisson and Associates here in Charles City.
And then the cyber insurance, that's a separate item. Can you
Yes.
just maybe walk us through what that covers a little bit? What's the liability and the max on that one?
The cyber liability covers you for cyber attacks on your computer system. It also covers you for ransom. And that's a big one, seems to be anymore. So the cyber liability is a separate company that we write with Gesture Insurance. They're the ones that, actually Gesture Insurance, this is their program, and they underwrite it with VMC. So you understand the Gesture connection. This is their program, and they underwrite it with VMC. So, and we had a cyber issue last year. We didn't pay anything, but you had a firm that was hacked. And I think they came to us looking for our company to participate. And our company said, no, you're the one that did this. You're the one that has the coverage. So you respond. So So that is your cyber.
Is there a max limit that they pay out on that?
No.
Like, that's what that was for me. I don't have any other questions. Board members, do you guys have any other questions?
No,
I'm-
I appreciate you answering the question on that. You know, I know that there are some companies who specialize in certain areas. I just more so wanted to bring it up so that it's discussed, you know, with the public to be able to hear that as well too. So thank you, Bob, for kind of explaining that some more.
Pleasure.
I move to approve the EMC insurance policy totaling $293,549 as discussed, and the cyber policy totaling $6,565 as discussed.
Second,
A motion and a second to approve the EMC insurance policy totaling $293,549 as discussed in the cyber policy totaling $6,565 as discussed. Any other discussion? Discussion now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 9.
Thank you,
Bob.
directors. I appreciate your time.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bob.
Thank you,
thanks,
Bob.
Bob.
Jeffrey tomorrow. Summer meals share out. All right, Evan, this one's got your name on it, buddy.
Yeah, so in June for breakfast, we had an average of 296 students, and in July, we had an average of 149 students per day for breakfast. For lunch in June, we had 293 students, and in July, we had 146 students for a total of 2,665 breakfasts served in the month of July and 2,765 lunches served in the month of July.
Great, thank you so much. That's awesome to know.
Is that the number drop primarily due to the fact we didn't have summer school going on?
We think there's a lot of factors. This has been a trend line we've seen every year. We think a lot of people go on vacation, leave, different things come up. But I don't know if summer school impacted it primarily because we were doing deliveries too. We were packaging meals and sending them out. But it just seems like that we've seen our last 5 years. As I've talked with Paige, want to try to see if we get that participation up. But of course, with the deliveries, try to make it as easy as possible. But yeah, that is interesting too that we see that.
Well, and even though it dropped in July, it's still providing a valuable service to those families that need it. So thank you to everyone who works on that with Taher.
No, we appreciate that. And we want to thank our Taher people that work all summer and people who made the deliveries. But you know, with our mission to be in the regardless school, if we have to serve one hungry child, that's well worth it. So.
I'll just echo Scott's comments and a huge thank you to everybody who was a part of that, because I think it's such a positive thing that our district does for the community.
I agree.
Excellent. Thank you so much. On to agenda item number 10, strategic plan, metrics scoreboard share. I believe this is Mr. Fisher.
Yeah, and I'm a little geeky. I get geeked out about stuff like this. So I'll try not to go too long on this. But, meeting our mission through clear vision, the mission is why we exist. The vision is where we're going. And, this has been a 3-year journey. And I'm really thankful for the board being so participatory in this. Because sometimes it's hard, again, this can get kind of geeky and in the weeds. But having the board come in for a work session, this has been a culmination of us strategic planning for 3 years. It's an ongoing process. And it's got the voice of our leadership team, it's got voice of our staff, and it's got voice of our board, community, kids, different things, and that's what we're excited about. And I really feel you're going to see us accelerate because the first few years, we really focused on mission, which is more culture-based, and clarifying that. And now we're focused on getting the work done and what that work looks like. So the success criteria tonight, I will be able to identify and understand the key components of the strategic plan. Number 2, I'll be able to understand the different components. So we'll identify that. 3, I'll be able to implement the strategic plan, all of our work as a school board team. The bottom line is this: the strategic plan is our roadmap, how to reach our vision and meet our mission. If we're not meeting the vision, we're failing our mission. So mission always comes first, but vision makes sure that we get there. So we can't just be a feel-good place. We've got to do good things for kids, you know, and that's a big piece of it. So, and again, strategic plan, you have to have a plan. And we say we want to plan the work the plan, and we want to say what we do and do what we say. So key terms you're going to hear consistently is one is hedgehogs. And hedgehogs comes from Jim Collins in a book called Good to Great, which is a pretty older piece of business literature. But he talks about the fable, the hedgehog versus the fox. The fox is cunning and clever and tries to do a lot of different things, but doesn't do any of them great, just does all of them pretty good. The hedgehog finds the one or two things that he can do very, very well, or she can do very well, which in the hedgehog's world is getting the ball and have pointy spikes. And the fox tries to attack the hedgehog, tries a different strategy every day. The hedgehog continues to do the things it's well at. What the hedgehog means in our business is we want to find the things that we can be best in the world at. And our organization's leadership has worked hard to find what those are. We're going to share those out tonight. So you're here us talk about hedgehogs, but really hedgehogs is just our key strategic focus areas. Lag goals. Lag goals are the goals where they're your strategic goals that are benchmarks. Like, you know, if I was saying I wanted to lose 50 pounds, that's my lag goal. I want to lose 50 pounds by May. So why I call it called lag goals, by the time you know if you've met it or haven't met it, it lags behind the work you're actually doing. So lag isn't a negative thing. It just says in the timeline where that happens. Most of our lag goals happen, you know, in that June time. You know, we're going to start in August, and by June, we want to get to a certain goal. Lead strategies are the strategy we use to meet the lag goals. So for example, if I wanted to lose 50 pounds by May 1st, my lead strategy might be I want to consume 1,500 calories a day. I want to make sure I walk 2 miles, you know, every 2 days. Those are the things that predict us meeting those goals. So lead strategies versus lag goals. X to Y by when are our goal setting tools. X says where we're at, Y is where we want to be, and by when is the goal, you know, the timeline. And then metric scoreboards are what we're using as goals and strategies to determine if we're winning, and scoreboards are tools we're going to use, which the board team will now have a scoreboard we'll look at monthly to give us some information on if we feel like we're winning and how we're doing. So our resources, again, this comes from the 4 Disciplines of Execution by Sean Covey and Good to Great from Jim Collins. So, and we've talked about hedgehogs, and here's what we've identified. We've worked hard in the last 3 years and taken a lot of input to figure this out. What are the key areas we know we can be the best in the world at? And these act as our strategic focus areas. This is where we should spend the most time and the most energy. We can be the best in the world at these. One is student engagement. That encompasses all of our academics and all of what we're doing with kids. If we know we have students highly engaged, we know the rigor, the relevance, the applicability outside of the classroom, and honestly, they're going to be really into the work of what we're doing, and we know that's where student success, that's where our student success can be. Number 2 is equity. Speaks in our mission that regardless of who you are, what your story is, you can learn here. We want to make sure we're the school that is one of the best in the world at that. Leadership. We know we want to have every kid and every staff member be the best version of themselves. We know we can be the best at teaching and fostering and empowering leadership in all of our family. And finally, healthy culture. We want to be the best at having the healthiest culture that our staff, our students, our community feel very healthy about what we do and the work that happens. And that takes intentional time because organizations can be negative if you don't spend intentional time working on that. Again, we talked about lag goals, and these are the long-term goals that set our mileposts to make sure that we're meeting our hedgehog. So, you know, again, you're never going to arrive at the destination. You never meet your vision. It's an infinite game, so to speak. You're always playing, but you're always looking to the future. And lag goals make sure that we continue to do that. And then lead strategies. These are the staff-created strategies and action steps on how to accomplish these goals. These are the day-to-day steps that drive our work. Schools are notorious for getting what we call mission creep, where you just start to be a mile wide and 2 inches deep. And this really speaks to we want to be a mile deep and 2 inches wide. We're going to really focus on the things that we know that we can be the best in the world at. And that comes from these lead strategies, and we can give our staff very clear direction on where we're going, and they can know the value they're getting out of it. Like, I'm a part of something bigger that's moving forward. And again, X to Y by when. This is something we use pervasively through the organization. You know, it's going to be something that we're going to start using at the board team for my evaluation. It's something that all of our senior leaders use for their evaluations. It's what we're doing for each campuses to say, hey, X, where are we at? Y, where do we want to be at? And then by when? And then what are the strategies to close that gap? So this is a very helpful tool. Again, it comes from the Covey work of 4 Disciplines of Execution. And then metrics are the tools we use to measure results. This includes dashboards and scoreboards. We're going to use these internally and externally. The board and leadership team will utilize its own monthly cadence and dashboard. Here's the difference between a dashboard and a scoreboard. A scoreboard will tell you what the score is and if you're winning, like a baseball scoreboard. But the dashboard is more like your scorebook. It tells you why that score is. Well, we're up 4-5 with 3 hits, right? What does that mean? Well, we can look at how many walks there are, or how many hit batsmen, or how many errors there were. That's not necessarily on the scoreboard. That'll be in your scorebook. So the dashboard is really your scorebook and gives you real-time data of what you're doing that we'll look at monthly to have an idea of what the scoreboard will be. What we report out to the community, like that nice trifold that came out, that's more our scoreboard that we communicate to the community and also to our organization. And so the example of our scoreboard is this, and again, this is something that we have been working on as an organization. This has been, we developed this over the course of the year and beta tested it for 6 months. And you'll see these things, and I'm not saying every one of these things is the most important thing we do. What they are small dipsticks to give us an idea of, do we think we're healthy there? So you look at the different measures. And so, staff attendance, does that mean, staff satisfaction is good or not? Well, it doesn't really tell you, but we know this. If staff attendance is low, it might mean we got to dig into more data. We want to dig into the data on the last culture survey, or do more focus groups and do more one-on-ones. This is not necessarily going to tell you what's wrong or what's healthy. It's just going to be almost like your check engine light. We all know the check engine light that goes on, something's wrong, but you're going to have to code it to figure out, to dig more deeper into it. So we try to pick measurements we felt could be our check engine lights. What this is, you'll notice each one of the campuses down here has their own scoreboards, a dashboard. We won't look at those as a board team. You're only going to look at the district dashboard, which is a composite, average of all those other scoreboards, because we don't want to necessarily pick on one campus. But what I'll tell you is, at the board level, at the senior leadership level, we very much do dig into those individual campus pieces and metrics. And eventually, this is something we're going to be using regularly with our staff. What you'll see is, if we also find there's things on here that aren't, we feel are real accurate to what we need, they can obviously change. So this was just an intensive 6-month process where we brainstormed some measures that could work. We have some backup measures that we may move to if they don't. So moving here, going into September, beginning of October, we'll be pulling this up and just reviewing as a board team and talk about some of the goal setting. So with that. So alignment, this is what's really important. We want to be aligned. All of our work must be aligned from the board to the classroom. The strategic focus areas will be aligned at the superintendent level to the campus and classrooms. You see this sometimes, and this just drives me nuts. You'll see a school might have a strategic plan, but then they have separate superintendent and board goals. It's like, it seems like you have 2 things that are operating exclusively, and there should be alignment in everything that we do. So what we talk about is what we're talking about at the leadership level. We're talking about the classroom level as well. Again, different lenses. We have the wide angle lens, where the teacher will have more of the telescopic or the, almost a microscope type of lens. We're looking at the same thing, which is our hedgehogs. Collaboration, just so you know, the strategic plan is a collaborative and constantly growing tool. As maybe the board knows, we spend much time in the summer adjusting it, tweaking it. This process again started 3 years ago when we did a deep dive in the Strat-on process. So there's a lot of productive hours with the board, leadership, staff, and other stakeholders. We constantly evaluate and evolve to meet the needs of our mission and vision. And one thing before I get to this is you're going to notice, well, what about finances, Mike? What about facilities? That is all in there. We still have a facility strategic plan. We still have finance strategic plans as well. But what we have to keep in mind is those aren't the first things that happen. Those should help drive and support those 4 hedgehog areas. Sometimes school districts get a little backwards where it's like money first and facilities first, and we want to be education first. So any financial decision we make or facilities decision we're making should be driven by equity, engagement, leadership, and healthy culture. But again, we obviously still have those as strategic plans as well. We know we have those separately. So don't think that we're not, having those in there. And keep in mind, the board has a fiduciary responsibility of protection of taxpayer dollars. So again, we're not saying that is important, but we're also saying that, that's a pretty low bar. We should be at a much higher bar. If we're talking about the budget's insolvent, we've made a lot of other mistakes. So, we have a very healthy budget right now. So we got to get to a higher level of where we're having the right conversation. So superintendent program evaluation for the board. This process improves and makes this much more concise and measurable. So this will be a big part of our discussions at the board table. And the board has clear, concise goals for program and even superintendent evaluation. It will have clear data to show growth in area of need. And we'll clearly know if we're healthy and winning and why or why not. And this will be in conjunction to personal superintendent leadership goals created with the board. So I will have, two different things, pending your approval. We'll have our organizational goals, but then I can have some personal goals that we'll set separately that are aligned to this as well, but my own personal leadership too. So, but we want to make sure that we have some tools that we can have robust discussions to know, like, hey, are we winning or are we not? Because sometimes that discussion gets really jaded by, biases, like, well, gosh, I'm unhappy about this, but it may not match the data, or I'm really happy about this, but boy, the data doesn't speak to that's what's actually happening. So this is just an overview. I know we've had a lot of discussion about this previously in workshops and different things, but it's culmination, and then we'll be asking for your consideration or approval to adopt the 4 strategic focus areas coming up, the hedgehogs, and just ask for any questions you might have.
Board members, do you have any questions? Mike, can you go back? I think it's like slide 4. That the books that are in there, has everybody on the leadership team and the board team read those books?
Not everybody's read, many of our leadership teams read them, and we have had, so 4 disciplines execution, we had a 2-day training over that work. So haven't always read, it's a little bit of a dry read, I will say that. But we have had our leadership team go through a training with that. But there are, if anybody's interested in reading that, we can do that. Good to great, most of our leadership team has read it, and we definitely dove deep into the hedgehog piece.
Well, the reason I ask is, if the board's going to participate, just having them understand what we're doing. I mean, the good to great concept is fairly straightforward, and I don't know if it would be beneficial for board members who haven't read those books that they would want to read them, or maybe we have the audio book in the library and they could check it out on CD if they still make that stuff anymore. I don't even know. Or I don't even know if people have CDs in their car. Maybe we could rent it from library. I don't know.
I will make sure that the resource is available. Good to Great's a super easy read. It's a great read. I love it. It's seminal work. 4 disciplines is very good. Again, it's just a little more drier, but it's good stuff. And again, we went through some pretty heavy training with that this summer. We had many teachers. It was execution training that we did that were trained on this as well. And I will see if there's audio books. Here's the great thing too, the 4DX, 4 disciplines execution, actually underpins most of the Leader Me work we're doing. It comes from the Franklin Covey group.
See, those things just might tie in so well together just because we're doing it.
If you're interested, just shoot me an email or text and I can get you a copy of that.
Okay, great, thank you. Board members, do you have any questions? That was the only one that I kind of thought through as we looked at that.
Just to say that, Pat and myself were involved a year ago in discussions about all of this with the leadership team, and then this summer the majority of the board sat in on the 4.5-hour work session that the leadership team had when they were diving through this in great detail. And there's been a lot of work and thought process put into this, and I greatly appreciate everything that the leadership team has done, and including board members. And it'll be interesting to see as this moves forward and we start gathering data and looking at it and making minor adjustments in our path and the process we're using to achieve our goals. It'll all be interesting to watch and follow.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Any other comments from board members? All right, so there's no action on this. This was just an informational piece.
This is informational, and
sounds like that's maybe next meeting in September.
Actually, it's the next
item.
Next item. Yeah.
Oh, I was looking at the wrong. Okay. Yes. Excellent. Well, then let's move on to agenda item number 11.
So this just speaks to what we've done, and you guys have copies, obviously, of the large strategic plan. I'm also happy to report that we've been using spreadsheets and Google Docs. We're actually looking at some project management software that we'll be looking at to streamline this and actually make a easier view on the website as well. But yeah, this is and the big thing about this as well. It's a 5-year strategic plan. So what you'll notice as you read through our strategic plan, there's places that are highlighted in green. That's the lag goals we're focusing on this year. But you'll see we have things that are coming up year 3, year 4, year 5. Because we always have to make sure that we're looking, often in the distance. But also it allows us to be, at times say no. If there's something that we realize may take our time and attention or focus from our strategic goal areas, we might say no or not yet, or it needs to go on to maybe the bottom of the list. And actually, that's probably most helpful for me because I always am ideating and have some new idea I'm going to maybe try out. But I also know that sometimes that might need to wait while we focus on our hedgehog. So, yep, this would just be for.
So we don't have a specific comment for action item, I guess. So is there a particular structure, I guess?
What this will do is, you know how we've had goal 1, 2, and 3 of equity and achievement, culture and climate, facilities and infrastructure. This would now replace those 3. So as we work on our board agendas, it'll be aligned to these new 4 focus areas as we do committee items and different things like that. So that's the most upfront change.
I guess maybe my agenda is not right, but if I'm looking at agenda item number 11, I don't have at least.
There isn't a recommendation from the superintendent.
So the
my
question
bad.
is just how do we, what do we want to phrase this as an action from the board? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the superintendent's recommend. Yes, but there's not. There's no words. So.
Yeah. So we can just make it up as we go, and that's fine.
The superintendent's recommendation is to approve the strategic plan and district-wide goal adoption as presented.
Okay.
Evan,
I will make a motion to approve the recommendation to adopt the strategic plan and district-wide goals that Superintendent Fisher laid out. Is that good?
I think so.
Okay.
In second,
So we have a motion and a second to approve the superintendent's recommendations for the Charles City Community School District goals and strategic plan. Did we get everything correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion on that particular topic? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much for sharing that out. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for approving.
On to agenda item number 12, handbook approval.
This is pretty routine, but I did want to share this as well. So over the last 3 years, and I know you guys used to make fun of me, but I would sit in my house and read all the board policy.
Did you read them to your son to get him to fall asleep?
I did not, but that's a good idea. But it's
That
riveting.
works.
It is. I enjoy reading board policy. And then I've been getting through all of our handbooks. And also we've had some times we didn't have handbooks. We needed to write handbooks. So this year I was able to really get deep into our student handbooks, and we've done much work with this. First of all, we've had some national consultants look at it and recommend some improvements. That'll take some time over this year to get all those. We also, I'm very proud of this. We had, I want to thank Sarah Blickendorfer, one of our language arts teachers. She took time and went and proofread them for grammar and syntax and voice. So we're at what had happened with the student handbooks. They've been written over the course of 30 years by different people and different, voices and maybe different grammar. And so I appreciate her work in helping us get some of that more concisely worded. And so there's no major content changes. We've already done that in the past, but I just want to give a shout out to a lot of people who put a lot of time to get these handbooks prepared for you, and they're ready for your approval. Once we get this done, and what you've noticed is you have access to them. They're in the technical term would be a galley draft, kind of a rough draft. Once your approval hits, and we'll do more handbooks next month or next meeting, we then send them to our graphic designer, make them all pretty, meet our brand, and put them up on the website.
In the comments, you note that you're going to put in in the comments in the handbook in the exhibits. You note that you're going to have a index or table of contents. Is
Yes.
that true? That will be like a PDF version that you can just click on and.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep, that's what we're gonna do. We actually, Danielle in our office right now is working on that. I got done proofreading it. My eyes were about done, and I asked Danielle to help me with the table of contents. I ran out of gas on that, so we will have that for the final copy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Board member-
My question is, isn't this late in the year to be approving handbooks when we had the first day of school today? Shouldn't we be doing this either in July or 2 weeks ago before school starts?
That's accurate, and that's we normally do this in July. It's taken us all summer to get them cleaned up. It really has. And so we in Emc can vouch for this. I kept having on the meeting, but I wanted to honor Sarah's time because she was working on. We didn't want to do halfway work, and also I didn't want to come back with a bunch of amendments when a lot of it was just grammatical issues and misspellings and different things. So I want to have a clean copy for you. So normally this will hit in July, and so typically.
Any other questions? Good question.
And just legality wise, I mean, our handbooks are still in force and effect from last year. So I mean, we're still legally covered, but that's a fair statement, Scott.
Well, I'm not trying to shed any bad light on anybody, but now that you've spent all of this time getting them cleaned up and grammar and voice and vocabulary, future changes, however minor or major they may be, will be much easier as long as we continue to keep the grammar, voice, and vocabulary in mind.
Yes, and you know, for example, the rough drafts you have right now, we don't have everything alphabetized. And that was a weakness in the handbook. There was no real rhyme or reason where things were. They were just added on. And so you really had to dig. So we're gonna get every section alphabetized with a table of contents, and that's not even done yet too. But what I am proud to say is I'm now officially through all the handbooks. It's taken us 4 years, but we've gotten through every board policy, every handbook. We've read some handbooks that were missing, some board regulations missing. I feel we're in the best shape we've been in the last 5 years with that.
Thank you for that work.
I have a odd question probably, but I noticed in the 6th through 8th handbook, it talked about the Pledge of Allegiance, but in the high school handbook, it didn't talk about that. Do we need to have that in the high school handbook according to law?
Yes, you know what, that would be my mistake. I thought I had them to both, so I'll make sure that it notates that it is that it covers both grade levels. So
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the handbooks as amended and updated for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the handbooks as amended and updated for the 2021-2022 school year. Any other discussion? In favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 13, payment of goods and service policy, second reading.
Yeah, so this was the policy we discussed at the last board meeting. This will allow me to transform checks into direct deposit to save money and be more efficient in the central services office. So I'm asking you guys for second approval to get that implemented.
Great. Any questions for Evan on that one? We have a motion.
Move to approve the second reading of the payments of goods and services policy as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of the payments of goods and services policy as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 14, track resurfacing. We talked about this one last time, so.
yeah, this is just a finalized coming to you. And our strong recommendation after consistent research has been this will be our cheapest route to do it. If we go back out to bid, we're gonna lose all of the design costs we've had. And also just we keep seeing prices tick back up right now. So again, it feels strongly, it's a bummer where, you know, that the underlayment wasn't in better shape than we had hoped. But we're going to have a very, very fine track and we're going to do it well and do it right. So this is our recommendation to you for the change order.
Two quick questions. Is there a date that they will be completed by?
I believe it would go back to that August 1 date.
22?
Of 22. And they're going to start as soon as track season's over because they're going to need every ounce of that to get that done. But the piece is we will be done by football season. It will not interfere with football.
Okay, and then for payment, when do we have to pay them? Do we have to pay them now? Do we have to pay them then?
It's with the payment, they work with us with the payment situation. So they kind of bill us as it goes.
So the reason I'm asking is because if we carry over that fiscal year, how do we, accurately reflect where we paid it when we paid it since?
So that just kind of goes to our reserves. So we carry that over in our reserve fund. And when we bring that over, we can access the reserves, pay for the track, and use some new money.
The money we had budgeted this year will carry over reserves, and then the change order will be paid out of our reserves we have anyway, which our reserves are building back up because quite honestly, we've done quite a bit of operation stuff with COVID money. So that's created more money in our savings account for that. So it's again, just their key message is we're not having to raise taxes. This isn't something where we got to borrow money. We have cash on hand. to do this with our normal PEPAL levies and with our normal tax levies.
Okay, great.
And just one other clarification or reminder, because we're going this route, they are adding a warranty on this. So if there's an issue with the track, they're going to come and fix it. If we did not do this and they just resurfaced it like we originally talked about before we knew how, what bad shape it was underneath, there was no warranty included in that, correct?
That is accurate. This is a 25-year warranty, and if we would have went the other route, there would have been no warranty.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All good points. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve Director of Operations Jerry Mitchell's change order request for $209,557 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion in a couple seconds to approve Director of Operations Jerry Mitchell's change order request for $209,557 as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 15, the financial report for July 2021. So first, the new fiscal year. It's like Christmas here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So after the first month, it's really hard to have solid hard numbers. So some things I wanted to highlight on is I kind of changed up the format a little bit on how I'm going to present these financials. And my reasoning behind that is I get a lot of questions on clarity on what comes from what fund and why. So the new format that I set up in this report breaks it down by category and what's spent where. Now, the cool part about this as well is when we agree upon a budget that's due at the end of September, it tracks a percentage of our budget to that line item throughout the entire year. I thought that provided a lot of transparency for the public on what they're doing there. Now we still have our overall for the what's one summary. The summary page is still there, and we still backtrack for our health fund analysis back to when we started our self-funded health insurance program. So I just want to make that kind of clear. Some other things going on right now is fiscal services, central services, working really hard on some registration in our office and the food free and reduced meals applications taken care of and all that stuff. So that's really great. We're working on our certified annual report. We're making good progress on that. Our unspent is trending downwards, which is a win. Our reserves is trending upwards, which is another win. And our certified annual report should go to our auditors on September 8th. So I can certify it on September 15th with the state. Once it's certified with the state, I am able to create the budget for the 2021-22 school year, where I'll be looking for input from members of the community and other task force around to make that as replicable as I see fit. So those are some of the big things we've been working on through the month of July and August here. So
Thank you so much. Any questions for Evan?
Well, I want to point out, in a lot of these reports that we're seeing in the packet were computer generated printouts from our bookkeeping software, and that Evan or Terry in the past would have taken the time to take a lot of this data and put into spreadsheets. And now we're going to, by seeing these reports, we're going to see actually more detail and more specific numbers. I had a conversation with Evan about this kind of stuff last week. And if the board likes this, I'm guessing we'll continue to see this versus spending the time to do the Excel spreadsheets that Evan had done in the past. The one thing I wanted to point out in this paperwork that we have, if I can get to it at the end, the health fund analysis. At the end of each fiscal year, for some reason, those numbers are in red, and maybe it would just be better if the June of each calendar year, which is the end of the fiscal year, if they were bolded instead of a different color, and then we could make sure we could see the changes on a fiscal year basis. Also, to comment on the health fund, it appears, that we have, and we have purposely lowered the balance in the health fund on cash on hand from what, we were 1.85 million in June of 18, and June of 21, we were down to 1.242 million. So we have lowered that balance on purpose, and I'm guessing we're getting down to the point where we don't necessarily want to go a lot lower. Is that a fair assumption, Evan, about the balance in the health fund?
Insurance plan, so we should see that self-funded insurance trend more steadily and in the right direction. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be monitoring that close throughout the year.
And what did you do with the dental plan that was in the health fund? How did we zero that out or make that up?
So that's part of my close end of the year report. So that hasn't been exactly done yet. I'm working with some consultants on the proper way to do that. But we did go from self-funded to fully insured. So we're just working on how to work out those kinks and move forward. So I'll present that in October when we're bringing the financial report meeting.
Okay, thank you.
We do know, Scott, that we're going to have to cover that balance with general fund in some way. That was made really clear by the DE and our legal counsel. We'll just figure that out. Now, the good news is we saw our general fund, balance, increase. So it's a good year for us to do this because we have some excess margin to make that happen. I agree. We've been watching the health fund closely, but with our renegotiated settlement and things happening, we're hoping that projecting everything we had from our insurance consultants, that'll be trending back up. We also know we're getting the hard part of the year because everybody's met their out of pocket. So more things are coming from us. And so at that January time where stuff starts to self-correct again.
Right.
Great questions. Any other questions? All right, we have a motion.
I move to accept the July 2021 financial reports as presented.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to accept the July 2021 financial reports as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 16, the consent agenda. We have a lot of items on the consent agenda tonight, so. Good.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items as listed.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items as listed. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to agenda item number 17, big ideas. Board members, any thoughts on big ideas?
Insurance is expensive.
Yes.
Not a new idea, but a big idea.
Yes.
Well, the biggest idea is we started school with everybody here in person.
Yep.
I think those of us who had the opportunity to hear the orchestra was really good to start off our school year with that. So it's great that we have a really exciting program like that.
Right.
It was a little muffled on Zoom, kind of like the band was 2 weeks ago, but it was very enjoyable, and we want to make sure we give them the accolades and thanks that they deserve.
Yeah.
And then
And just a shout out to Mike and everybody who's been involved with the strategic planning, district-wide goals, adoption, and the handbooks. I know that stuff obviously takes a lot of time. So appreciate all the work that was done to get to that point. So, and also the work that Evan's been doing too, and making things a little bit easier to read, finding ways that that he can do things and save time, which saves money. So I appreciate that too.
I will say, Missy, this is the first time in my career here I had to ask Paige for some Tylenol. I was working on the hand clips and my eyes were just kind of going. So I said, hey, I need some Tylenol, but we muscled through. So thank you for the kind words.
Anything else? Okay, move on to agenda item number 18, correspondence and miscellaneous, and we don't have any, so we'll move on to agenda item number 19, August 23rd, which is today, is our school board meeting. We're having that one right now, it's important. And then first day of classes for the secondary was today, and then August 25th, which is Wednesday, is that right? Is first day of class for the elementary.
September 13th would be the next school board meeting at 6:15.
And that's a big one because we're going to start using our new software on the 13th.
Correct.
So we're really excited about that.
Do we have
Can
any
I,
committee
can I
meeting
throw out? Oh,
before that? Are there any committee meetings before that?
It should be starting in September, so there should be one the first week of September, and I believe it's policy.
Okay. So
We'll get that communicated out to the board.
Yeah, probably, well, I think Tricia sent us a list. Didn't she, Evan?
I know she has a list. I don't know if she's communicated it out, but I'll follow up with her.
I'm sure we got it.
Okay.
can I share one more date upcoming? I mean, it doesn't have to do with the school board necessarily, but Friday, the 27th is our first home football game. And so the marching band will be performing at halftime. And I got to see a preview of their show, so more than what they played for us at the last board meeting. And I'm excited to see them in full uniform on the field. You know, last year they weren't able to do that. And then also just to cheer on our football team. And new this year, I did see they're doing a tailgate before all the home football games. So I can't remember all the details, but I'm sure if you search Facebook somewhere, you'll find it. But yeah, they're going to do tailgate in the parking lot, I believe, before each of the home games. So come out Friday night.
It was from 5 to 7. And then I think it's a free will donation. Is that what they asked for?
Yes, yes.
And they're going to do hot dogs and hamburgers. Is that right? Or just
That I'm not sure about, but I think that's right. So
they're going to have grilled food of some type available.
yeah, and everybody's welcome. And of course, you know, our fantastic cheerleaders will be there as well. They've been working super, super hard. We also have a home cross country meet at Wildwood, I believe at 5:30 on Thursday. So come out there. I know we have some volleyball coming up, but I don't off the top of my head remember what the first date is, but I'll make sure we get that out there. But it's all coming up fast.
It does. Once it starts, it just starts rolling, doesn't it?
That's good. All right. Well, thank you, board members. And with that, we will adjourn at 18:41. Thank you guys so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.